We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet. But I forgot to put us back to full screen there. Oh, look at this. This is a little too close. Hello. Look how close this is. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet. Why is my face red at this time of day? It's the screen. I'm going to change the screen. It always makes my face look red. I look like a crazy I'm acting like a crazy person too. Uh, Gentlemen, welcome to our Sunday casual and informal discussion of Star Trek. Today we're talking about Strange New World's latest and greatest episode. All who wander. Is that what it's called? All who wander. That's what I put on the title. All who wander, which comes from a poem. I think that Tolkien wrote. Or it's attributed to Tolkien. I think it is from Lord of the Rings, if I'm not mistaken. But it's all who wander are not lost. All that glitters is not gold. Something like that. It's really nice. It's very cool. We got some folks in the audience already. We got Joel here. Nice to see you. We got the Blue Meanie. Great reference to this episode. And Hammer. And we have our friend Cake is Eternal here as well. So very cool. So I'm joined by the wonderful Braxton, and Marcelo is back. Welcome back, Marcelo. Nice to see you there.
Nice to see you. Happy to be back.
Hey, Starfleet boy. Hey, crew.
Nice to see you. We were remarking backstage that your hair is longer than I remember it being the last time we had you, and I can't imagine where the time has gone. It's crazy. Like it feels like
the last time.
Your hair grows really fast.
Yeah, no, but the last time I was on the stream for Stranger Worlds, I was list us up where suffering cannot reach. So it's been a while.
Oh wow, it has been a while. That's interesting that you were on for that episode because the sister of the kid who plays the first servant played the girl on this episode. So that's pretty cool. And if you watch Text Trek, their father was in the chat and was interacting with us in the chat, which is very, very cool. So
cool.
Yeah, it was a really neat little Star Trek moment over on Text Trek on Friday, in which everyone check out Text Trek, but not right now. Stay here for now as we talk about Strange New World. Would one of you gentlemen like to give a brief episode summary for this one?
Sure, I can give an episode summary. Okay,
Ooh, Marcelo was just about to. Yes, I'm glad you did do it.
I'll let you take it. Go ahead.
Okay, so the show opens with the promotion ceremony for the cadet to Uhura, and I forget the other young lady, and then also there's a young man who gets a promotion from ensign to lieutenant. So there is a huge feast. Everyone is gathering. We learn that there's a call in from Starfleet Command about a down ship, a ship that's in trouble. So the crew, the captain and Spock and La'an and Number One, Dr. Mbenga, they all meet up in the morning. Captain Pike is making breakfast for everyone, and he's like, "Hey, we got to go and rescue this Peregrine. No, not Peregrine. Something class ship that's called the Peregrine, and it's uses the same parts as the Constitution class, but it's not the same. It's a little smaller. But they're on an icy planet.
Which it might not be, actually. It might just have the same parts and have a different design purpose. But that's debatable, but I think everyone should go tune into both Trek Yards and Jurg, who I think have the most up-to-date analysis. But anyways, carry on. That was something I also thought, Braxton, because we talked about it on a couple times. Yeah, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah. La'an is a little late because she's seeing her shrink. I am enjoying the way that Christina Chong is playing La'an in this episode. She seems to be lighter. I feel like there's evidence of her seeing a shrink because she seems better, except for when she's yelling at the girl. So they take a landing party down to this icy planet. Hammer remarks that, oh, this feels just like home. The cadets and the ensign that just got promotions are along with the landing party, as well as Nurse Chapel. And so we go to the crash ship. Also on the planet, we are seeing body parts, dismembered people. We meet a new alien that is undiscovered so far. Like the universal translator can't even understand him, and he's guarding a girl. And then Gorn bursts out of the dude's chest, and then alien predator in Star Trek world ensues. Um, and Hemmer sacrifices himself after he's infected. This was a good episode. It was enjoyable to watch for me. I've seen it 2.25 times now. The first time I really enjoyed it. The second time I was finding faults with it, just in terms of them bringing aliens like into the Star Trek universe. And the third time that I was watching it, I stopped it at 25 minutes, which was right where the doctor was apologizing to La'an, when he was like, "Oh, stop harassing my daughter." And then he was like giving the reasons why he reacted that way. And
Yeah.
that was at 25 minutes. And that was like, right when the chest bursters were going to pop out, and like the problematic things were going to follow. So I feel like I stopped at exactly the right time. This is a good episode for me, but I think it's problematic that they have brought aliens into the Star Trek universe, and then also that they've made them the Gorn. Like, how does something that's like the alien like collaboratively work on something over a long period of time in order to like engineer like something for space travel? It just doesn't seem to make sense.
I love that you brought that up because it's something I've been talking about a lot this week, and I have some ideas about it. So we'll do a whole section on that and see if we can give you some reasons to hang on and see and let Star Trek explain it to us maybe in future seasons. But I have some ideas and I'll pose them to you all. Very cool episode summary, and thanks for that distillation of your thoughts. Let's get Marcelo's thoughts distillation. By the way, if you want to see his thoughts, if you haven't seen them already, his unabridged thoughts, because he's going to PG-13 it down for us today. But if you want to go see his unabridged thoughts, go check out his channel on YouTube, Balloonhead Productions, and check out his review of this. Marcel, take it away.
I thought this episode was entertaining, but I thought that it had a lot of issues. I thought that this episode paid homage to Alien in all the wrong ways. For example, when the Gorn sort of larva thingy popped out of the cool alien's back, like every time you saw this alien thingy chasing a member of the crew, we would see the POV. We would see the POV of the alien chasing this specific crew member, and it would just be like Alien. So I'm like, oh, that's not original. I'm like, okay, I understand that they wanted to pay homage to Alien. I get that, but I thought that they went a little bit too far in the other direction when they should have had a lighter hand to it. The other thing that really bothered me throughout this episode is that for some reason, unbeknownst to me, they take Chapel and Banga and a nurse's assistant down to this barren planet. And I'm like, why would you take your entire nursing staff and leave the Enterprise without any nurses or anything? Let's say
there's a ton of nurses. No, there's a ton of nurses on Enterprise. We've seen them in the background all season, and we know from like other emergencies, there's like plenty of folks. There's also he's the CMO, but there's probably other MDs aboard the Enterprise as well that are well equipped to handle it. Just like later on, McCoy's the CMO, but Dr. Mbenga is still an MD who happens to be aboard the Enterprise. Sorry.
Okay, all right. All right, you know what? I'll give you that. The other thing that I didn't like is my main problem with a lot of these episodes where crew members go down to different planets and things like that. For some reason, number one is absent from a lot of these away missions, and I don't understand why she is continuously sidelined throughout most of the season. Like she's like like the times that she is with Pike is very, very, very rare. And the time that she actually goes away on an away mission is very rare. So I don't understand that, because when just hold on one second. When Strange New Worlds was announced, I thought it was going to primarily focus around Pike, Spock, and Number One. They've done great with two of those, but it's like they completely forgot her. It's like the writers don't know how to balance these characters correctly. The last thing that I didn't like at all is Hemmer sacrificing himself. Do you know why when Jadzia Dax died, spoiler, in Deep Space Nine, do you know why we all cared? Do you know why every time she dies, I feel like a piece of me has died along with her? Do you know why? Because we spent 5 seasons with that character and we got to know her intimately inside and out. So when Hemmer sacrifices himself in this episode for the crew, I did not care. You know why I didn't care? Because I hardly got to see the man. What, he was in like 2 episodes this season? And I'm like
4, I think it's a little 4, maybe 5.
Ugh. But I'm like, come on, he was an awesome character. And
he was an awesome
for
character.
me,
It sounds to me,
hold on.
Marcel, like you do care, though. It sounds like you are very upset about losing Hemmer. So carry on.
But the reason why I care is because I think that it was bungled, basically. I think that he was such an interesting character, and I would have liked to spend more time with him. And
I agree
it's a shame
100%
that we're
with
not
that.
going
He's 100. I don't think it was bungled.
know,
I think it was a choice, but I don't agree with it personally, like you. But I think that they made a choice and they stuck to it, because Bruce Horrick said it was. Didn't he say on the Ready Room that he knew from the beginning that he was only going to be on for the season? So it seems like it was an intentional thing. I wish they had seen how popular he had gotten, because I think they would have changed their minds. But who knows? Maybe there's a lot of reasons we don't know behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, there is potentially a whole lot of reasons behind the scenes that I don't know about, but I am reacting to this episode in 2 different forms, from a writing aspect and from a fan aspect, and that's the only way that I can react, and that's why I didn't like that decision. Whether they had a plan from day one or whether they course corrected while they were writing these episodes, I don't know. It just didn't work for me personally. The other thing, which Braxton mentioned, why is La'an yelling at a child? It's like, really? You think you're going to get something out of this little girl? You're scaring her to death. What are you doing, woman? But look, with all these complaints, I swear to God, I'm almost done. With all these complaints, I thought the episode was really, really entertaining. It was just these little nagging things that sort of sucked some of the enjoyment out of the episode for me.
Nice, good distillation of your thoughts. I have a lot. I have a lot of questions and perhaps some responses to that. Overall, for me, this episode was really great. The first time I watched it, I don't like scary stuff. I tend to stay away from it. I was very impressed because they did actually manage to make it pretty horrific. I like some of the things that you don't. That aren't obvious, like maybe on subsequent viewings that I caught on to, like just like the Gorn's behavior and like watching them, like how quickly they molted into juveniles, like babies, like it was like just a matter of hours or like an hour, so it was pretty aggressive and crazy. And we didn't get to see them grow into adults, so I like that they left that open as to what could happen. Like, is it possible that Gorn started out like this and then the best ones are the ones that are the most cunning, so they survive, and then as they mature further, they become more articulate and perhaps they stand on 2 feet, their tail shrinks, things like that. Like, who knows? Like a lot of animals, we're comparing the Gorn to reptiles because that's what they look like, but they could be something completely different. Maybe they're more like insects, and we've been like saying it wrong. Maybe they're a hybrid of insects and reptilian things. And anyways, there's all kinds of ideas swimming around that make me wonder about the Gorn, and connecting bridging what we know about them from TOS to what we've learned about them this season in Stranger World has been really fun and interesting, and even a little bit vexing, I would say. So that's one aspect that I like a lot. Again, I tend to stay away from horror movies, but I got to give the episode huge kudos. There was a crew of 99 aboard that ship, and they all got murdered by a handful of Gorn babies, and it's insane. You see in every shot, you see blood everywhere. I'm glad they didn't show it, but like it would have been the boys level bloodbath on that ship. Like if this was that kind of a show, like imagine 99 people, guys. Like I haven't heard anyone talking about this, but the Gorn are insane. Like they are a formidable, ruthless, brutal, especially at this like age. And I think it's because when they're most vulnerable, they're like the quickest and the craziest and like the most animalistic. And I think that's like expressed really nicely in the episode. Heart I too am still parsing it and sitting with it, like wondering what could have been or what ifs, like had they kept him. But at the same time, I think it was an interesting death as far as deaths go. I hope it's permanent. I don't want to see another character resurrected, even though I love this character and would have loved to have seen him in future episodes. Someone did point out that there's a possibility he could have a twin on Andoria, so so maybe there's like a Hemmer relative in the future, so I'd like that. But Bruce Horrick, I think in an article that Mick Jost wrote for Cineblend, said that he will be back to Star Trek for sure. So that's actually a cool possibility too, to imagine him playing another character altogether. So I like that idea as well, because I do really enjoy the performer. I thought another thing that was cool about this episode is such a Uhura, a nice little cap to the Uhura arc this season. Like, she's been like struggling, and like she even says in this episode a couple, again, that like she doesn't really know what she wants or what her future is going to be. And at the end of this episode, I can't help it. It was a little fan servicey, but it gave me such nice feelings and goosebumps when she walks onto the bridge, turns to her right, and sees the communications console, where it's always been, by the way. In TOS, it's right next to the turbo lift, so it's kind of a nice little touch that it's also right next to it. Of course it should be, but but just like that whole nice, that cool vibe came in, and they just, the way they shot that was really cool. I think it's interesting. I was surprised by the Leon departure, and I think it's interesting to see where that goes. It's interesting that you guys think that the show crossed the line from homage to derivativeness when it comes to aliens and predators. I definitely think after watching it a third time that the references are so intentional that it was an homage. It was like they intentionally were like, let's make aliens in Star Trek. So I think I'm going to give them the benefit of that. Whether it worked or not, that's a different story. Yeah, overall, this was a really good episode. I think it's just, there's a lot of other things, like, for example, people online have been criticizing Pike for his decision making and like taking a bunch of inexperienced cadets on this potentially dangerous mission. But I say that that's not a bad quality. It's a difference. We're learning about Pike. One of the things about Star Trek is like seeing the captain style of every captain, right? Like Janeway killed Tuvix. Like a lot of people hate that shit, like,
I don't hate that shit.
but a lot of
That
people do.
shit's
They're
okay.
like,
You
what?
can kill
They're
Tuvix
like,
all day
she's a
long.
murderer, stuff like that. So seeing these decisions, I think it's cool because it's like seeing a new perspective on captaining a starship. And I like that Pike is more of a collaborative, like less of a commanding force and more of a collaborative force. I think it's a new way of seeing leadership. I also think it makes sense because he's going to eventually become a fleet captain. He's like, I don't think he's like so much into the day-to-day like Kirk. I don't think he does like the fun going down on the away mission type of stuff, but I don't know if he's like more of, I don't know if captaining a starship is his thing. I think he's trying to get away from that. I think he's got a lot of trauma from it. He's also served for like 10, 15, 20, 15 something years. So I think he's getting tired of captaining. So it's cool to see him. And I can relate to him personally because I think Pike and I are probably around the same age. He might be a little bit older than me. And I kind of sense that that same feeling of like, you're not quite, you don't want to be the center of like the center seat and the center of attention, so to speak. You want to give opportunities to others. That being said, on the Una front, I do agree, Marcelo, that Una is underrepresented this season. I was hoping for that trio as well, and I don't think it quite delivered. We'll see what happens at the end when we do our season discussion, and we can kind of like at least these things. But I think that like one thing I will say is that for me, it's more of an Ortega's thing, that I think she's the character that got the least attention this season. Although spread out through the season, you get a lot of Ortegas, but I feel like there hasn't been like an Ortega's trick or Ortega's focused episode, whereas every other member of the cast I feel has gotten an episode, other than Sam Kirk, but he's like kind of like he's
Chapel
not
didn't get one, did she?
regular.
I'm sorry.
No, and Chapel has not, I don't think, really gotten a highlight this season per se, like just focusing on her, right? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We have one episode left. Let's see what happens. Exciting stuff coming up. If you guys saw the trailer for that, but yeah, it's very cool. Audience, love all the comments. Keep them coming. Let's see here. I like Uhura even more after this episode, but I'll really miss her with Hemmer. It's cool that they showed why she is qualified to fix the comm system in TOS. She's got engineering skills. Exactly. That's pretty cool. I love that. That's where prequels may not have the stakes that a continuing show has, where you really don't know what's going to happen to the characters, but there are these nice little moments that fill in the gaps or like add color to what's coming after continuity wise, and I like that. What do you guys think?
The fact that Uhura could fix the comm system in TOS was nice, but her doing one shift with Hemmer this season didn't fill in the hole that she's qualified to really handle the intricate systems underneath the comm system. If you want to think that, if you want to slot that into your personal canon, that's completely fine. But I think just she needs a little bit more to prove to me that she can fix the intricate comm system if it breaks down.
Well, she's like working with Hemmer like quite a lot. He chose her to go to engineering, huh? No, last time was in Memento Mori, the other Gorn episode, I think, if I'm mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Where he walks her through that. Yeah. So yeah, cool. What about you, Braxton? What do you think?
Oh, so I really enjoyed Ahura's story arc this this entire season. I'm really going to miss Hema. Yeah, I'm gonna miss Hema.
Me too. Hemmer's a tough one. Oh, what did I do? Hold on. Sohail, Starfleet Boy here is not is not performing to his usual function, his usual abilities here. Let's get into the nitty gritty of the discussion. By the way, this episode was written by Davey Perez, kudos, and directed by Christopher J. Byrne. So I've been trying to get these screenshots. The quote that Uhura says in the beginning during that breakfast scene. By the way, I made breakfast today, and I was inspired by this episode, so I think it was a total success. I might make it a tradition to make breakfast on Sundays.
Did you make those? Family.
No, I didn't make those little tarts or anything like that. Mine was much simpler. It was Gordon Ramsay style scrambled eggs with roasted tomatoes and a little bit of toast and waffles. So that's it. And coffee. I made the coffee too. The quote says, "I've rotated through almost every department. So many amazing, talented people. The top of the top everyone of everything. They all know why they belong in Starfleet. For them, Starfleet has always been the destination. For me, it was where I ran to after the loss of my parents. Serving aboard Enterprise is an affirmation of this entire crew's hopes and dreams. I envy their assurity, but me, I guess I'm still searching. So yeah, so she's still not quite sure what she wants to do. And again, no stakes there in terms of like I mean, there could be stakes in the sense that like maybe Uhura doesn't come back for season 2 and 3, and comes back much later, but I don't think that's going to be the case. But it is still neat again for me from a character's perspective to see this time of doubt for her and to see her so young. By the way, it's pointed out that Pike is 39 and I'm 44, so I'm older than Pike. But we're relatively the same age. So sorry, Anson Mount, that gray hair was throwing me off a little bit. I aged you. I aged you
thought
a bit
Anson
more.
Mount was 45, dude.
Oh, so Anson might be a little older than me.
Yeah, I think Anson Mount's 45.
But actors play younger all the time. Like I feel like I could get away with playing a 39-year-old on TV. I don't know.
You
What do you
could.
guys think? I could, right? Yeah, I think I could do it. I think y'all could get away with playing 20-year-olds on TV. You're so young and young and looking there. What did you guys think? What do you guys think of Pike and all his breakfast and food stuff, like hosting breakfast? Like, what do you think of this aspect of his character?
I think that it's nuts that he washes dishes by hand. So now I do have a dishwasher and I do wash dishes by hand also. But it's so far in the future. Like if I could just put them somewhere and the stuff could just like materialize off the dishes, I feel like I would totally just do that. I love that Pike cooks for everyone. When Uhura was giving us the narration and we were like uh, uh, looking over the food and like she was thinking those thoughts. I was like, damn girl, you're gonna be on this ship for the rest of your damn life. And you talking about leaving there, girl, you're gonna be like in your middle 60s on this ship, you know.
It's true.
But I love, the way that the captain bonds with the crew over these meals because that's what having dinner together is really about. Like yeah, like everybody needs to eat, but like it's also about like bonding and spending time together. Something else that I thought after multiple watches in the opening scene, and I was like, oh well, it seems like Pike really values like young lives because of the sacrifice that he's going to make. Why did he value the lives of these young people, this ensign and
Why?
this like cadet who was just elevated? Why didn't he value those young people's lives? So I don't know.
But
Captain
like,
Pike
I
has
think
made
I think it's not about not valuing. It's about he says a line later like I clearly brought the best people. Like I don't think it's like an age thing because if you look at the makeup of the party, you got some tenured folks and you got some young folks. And I think it's
yeah
important in an organization like Starfleet to expose the younger cadets and lieutenants and stuff too. I mean, there's eventually a time where you have to go down to the dangerous mission. You can't just be up there on the ship like scared. So I don't blame him at all. I don't think it's like a bad decision, actually, personally.
okay.
You only learn to swim once you get thrown into the fire. So
Or the Gorn ship.
yeah, or the Gorn ship, or
or
on the Gorn ship.
or the 99 dead.
I just
But they didn't do that when they were, that's the other thing, Braxton, is like I don't think he really I think this I do have to say like maybe is a critique, but I don't
oh
think
my
he really
god, you have a
understood.
critique?
Oh haha. Uh don't get me started, Marcelo. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't think he really did. I do think he did get comfortable. I agree that like maybe he didn't like think about the risks all that much on this. I think he was a little bit from his last mission, maybe where he was all like, "Oh, this is nice. No more, no more pew pew. Like I love this exploring stuff." Maybe he didn't think that it was going to be as dangerous as it ended up being. So that could have been a flaw on his part.
I would just like to echo Braxton's sentiments. It's really nice to see that Pike values time with his crew, and I love the fact that he cooks for most of his senior staff and a lot of the people under him. I really like that he likes to present the picture of congeniality, because Picard didn't like to do that. Picard would just like to throw everything to number one and everybody else. Picard cared about projecting a certain kind of image, and I like that Pike is different in that way. Pike is a little bit more like, he's a mixture of Kirk and Archer more than he is Picard. I don't know where that came from, but what I'm trying to say is I like the fact that Pike does the dishes and he hosts these little get-togethers, dinners for his crew. I like that.
This was nice too, the little promotion ceremony, and I don't know enough about the armbands to know if the rank makes sense. But look, they're giving him a new, like a little armband for his to give him his lieutenant rank. So that's pretty cool. And it was nice to see that there was another cadet on rotation. Did we see Lieutenant Chia? I mean, Ensign Chia or Cadet Chia before this episode? Do you guys remember her?
I don't remember her.
So.
I don't think I remember her either. But yeah, that was a cool scene. I like the whole pomp and circumstance of it. And then of course there will always be a place on Enterprise for Nyota Uhura was a touching scene. Again, it was cool to see Ortega's come in there. And Marcelo, I thought of you. Uhura, the Queen of Command, she would not listen up until Ortega's gave her permission to speak freely.
Mm-hmm. That's how.
So,
yeah, no. That's how you should do it. That's how you do
it. So there you go. I thought of you totally. But Braxton, that's a really funny thing what you said about her. like, girl, you're gonna be on this ship into your 60s. I'm really glad that Star Trek Picard gave Uhura a further, like a end cap to her adventures. She does eventually go on to captain a starship. Apparently, she goes outside of our galaxy to the Lesser Magellanic Cloud, and she makes like 100 or something first contact missions there. And then she also was responsible for giving Starfleet cadets their first warp cruises. Which Jean-Luc Picard, as a young cadet, actually went on her Chalene race, I think it's called, and experienced his first warp flight aboard Uhura's command. So that's pretty cool. Uhura has finally gotten the flowers and is getting them that she has always deserved. And it's a really nice thing to see that character get it. And it's also really nice to see Nichelle Nichols, the original Uhura, getting her flowers. Last year, they released a really cool documentary called Woman in Motion about Nichelle Nichols' involvement in the space program. And I think it's great. Zoe Saldana is a great Uhura too. And Celia R. Gooding is an awesome Uhura. She's like my favorite Uhura after the original. So I'm really excited that Uhura is getting a lot more attention. But this was a touching scene. It gave me goosebumps when Pike said it because it's true. Uhura and Enterprise forever. I wonder if the armbands are iron-ons. That's funny. I like the idea. Pike is like so they're already on a priority 1 mission to deliver these energy cells to K7, which was mentioned, which we saw in the original series, the K7 station. I think we saw it in what episode? Is that Trouble with Tribbles, right? You guys know?
I think it's trouble. I think it's Trouble with Tribbles. I'm not.
I think it is Trouble with. Yeah. But anyways, we have seen it or heard of it before, so that was interesting. But then they find out that this downship, the Sombra class, the Peregrine, needs assistance, but the communications were 2 days old, and so Leon, he confers with, I guess, his senior officers over brunch, which is cool continuity. Like they just had this breakfast for the crew, and now they're having brunch with just the senior officers discussing the missions. And I think Joel or someone said earlier Spock washing dishes was everything, and it's true. It's fun to see him in the apron. He looked very cute. But Leon's like, why can't we just do two things at once? And that's where they kind of decide to split up the crew. So number one will lead the mission to K7. And even though there will be a communications disruption and there's a little risk factor, they decide it's okay. And Pike says he'll take point on the rescue mission on the planet for the Peregrine. And so there we go. Things are set in motion. But I'm going to cite our friends over at Text Trek. I think Dave was saying that this scene was a little too casual, like, for mission briefing. I disagree. I think I love it. I think I really like that. Again, it's just showing a different style of command. Like Pike's not necessarily one for formality. And as you know, Starfleet Boy is casual and informal. So I kind of love a casual and informal command style. And I kind of love seeing it depicted in this way. I think Riker actually would be very much the same. There's the episode with Captain Jellicoe, I think, is where Picard says, hey, don't be fooled. Riker might be like a very kind of like loosey-goosey commander when it comes to formality, but he's really, really on top of it. And I think it's the same case with, what do you guys think of the whole casual? Should this have been in a conference room? How do you think it was too distracting to have it at brunch?
First of all, Jellicoe sucks. Secondly, yes, he sucks. Secondly, I don't think this is too casual and formal. I like the casualness of this briefing. I mean, you can be laid back, but you can still be paying attention. So it's clearly that they were laying back, and La'an was about to get her mind blown when she got a plate of Pike's food. But
yeah, that looked like a quiche or an omelet that she was eating. It looked delicious.
Yeah. As long as the senior officers are paying attention and they understand what everybody's doing, I'm fine with it.
Right on. Hey, Marcelo, Blue Meanie says, I really agree with Marcelo about number one being underwritten. I'm hoping that that doesn't mean
I won.
She will
Somebody
be the
listen.
next to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Blue Meanie also says, we used to have breakfast meetings at my old company. Business was conducted. Also, there was breakfast. So yeah, that's true. I love breakfast meetings. As a matter of fact, I think meetings over a meal is more fun. I think. Joel says, I think the casual thing is fine. They're always on important missions. Cake wants to know, is it canon that number one survives until the cage? Or the first TOS episode, I can't remember. So the cage takes place way before what we're seeing in Strange New Worlds. So we don't actually know number one's final fate, Cake, if I'm not mistaken. Do you guys know if that's correct, right?
I was under the impression that the cage didn't happen yet, but clearly it already happened.
No, the cage already happened. Remember? Okay, so Discovery season 2, remember Pike has a flashback to the cage.
Yes.
Yep. And
yes,
so
you're right. Cage already happened. Yep.
Yeah, it already happened.
Also, the great thing about these relaxed briefing scenes is that we get to spend more time with the characters. So when serious stuff happens to them, we actually care. Isn't that a novel concept? Sorry, I just had to put that in there.
Nice, Marcelo. Any other thoughts about this scene, guys? Spock washing dishes. Who wants those aprons? I want an apron like that. They're pretty cool looking aprons.
Breakfast over a meeting works just fine for me. The captain did say that we can do two things at once, or was it Lon that said that we could do two things at once?
Yeah, basically that was like a nice little the message of the meeting, right? Like having breakfast and talking important stuff, and then doing two missions. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. Pike's quarters are amazing. If I had lots of money, I would just be like, designers, could you just do my interiors like this? Like, what were you saying, Marcelo?
I like the wood paneling that he has on those tables.
Yeah.
That La'an and number one are sitting behind. But I do think that by the time Kirk takes over, I think a lot of this spaciousness that Pike has in his quarters, I think it's going to get shrinked.
There's a good explanation for that too. Yeah.
Because I think his quarters look a little bit too big, but I like them nonetheless. I think they look great.
His quarters are going to be turned into like 5 5 different officers' quarters by the time TOS runs around. There is actually a notable a notable reason as to why that might be also. The Enterprise's crew complement at the moment is about half of what it will be during Kirk's time. So it's possible that the Enterprise will go through a refit between now and Captain Kirk's time, and a lot of these like beautiful spacious areas will shrink down and become less spacious. So yeah, that's totally a possibility that's going to happen. Which is a good way of explaining it. I like that. I think that's pretty neat. So yeah. Go down the planet and we don't see the K7 mission, but that's okay. I kind of wanted to see K7, but it's all right. I'm glad we just spend the whole time on this planet and with the Peregrine. I love the visuals this episode. I love this planet. I forget what it was called at the moment, but I think it's just gorgeous the way they rendered it. It looks so it looks so good for Star Trek. Like I haven't seen Star Trek look this good. Discovery looks really good, but this is like I think even taking it up a notch from Discovery as well. But season 5 of Discovery is going to be benefiting from all the things they learned from this season. So who knows what we'll see coming up. But yeah, Star Trek just looks beautiful to me in this time. I mean, look at this shot right here with the shuttle door opening, and you see the Peregrine in the background. But we get Hemmer enjoying the cold. I'm like Hemmer. Fathery, our friend Fathery's like that too. I'm a cold weather person. So I totally related to him when he was like, oh, this feels wonderful. I was like, yes, take me out of this Miami heat. Get me up north to somewhere cold. I love it. I love it. I love it. But there are little moments that upon rewatch now touch me a little harder because I'm like, oh man, like, you know, he was so good before he died. Like, he was just doing such a great, like he was just so happy to be in this climate that reminded him of his home. And it's also kind of like fitting that, you know, like a lot of times when someone you know, in stories and fables, there's like little moments like where you feel the most comfortable. And you let go, and it kind of fits with the way Hemmer says goodbye in this episode. So I like that. I think those things are. I think it's cool that it happened to take place on this planet. Another thing I realized watching it the third time around was that Hammer might have survived if it weren't for the plan. The plan was to make the ship really cold, except for the one cargo bay, which was really warm. And the warmth in that cargo bay may have actually sped up. He was in a warm cargo bay in a hot box, like in this box, sitting in this box, right? So that heat may have actually sped up the process of Morneg's, like it might trigger the Morneg to like start developing, because the cold clearly slows them down. So that made me sad that like the actual trap itself is what may have actually increased Hemmer's uh demise, which is pretty sad. But I don't know, did you guys think that's a stretch?
You know, I
Oh no, you can go first, Paxton.
I did think it was fascinating that Dr. Mabenga said that for Orions, the gestation period is weeks. For humans, it's days, and then obviously for
For
uh,
Andorians it could be just hours.
or ANR Andorians, it can
Anar,
be
yeah,
just
sorry.
hours. And maybe because he like was very very warm, maybe that did help them to help accelerate their growth. So I don't know. I just thought it was remarkable that they were just able to grow like within hours. I thought that maybe he would not have died this episode. I feel like I knew there would be repercussions for the animal having spat on him. I was like, okay, well, like I know that's a something. It's not like acid like the aliens, and it's not like burning him right away. But I know like it's gonna cause something. But I was actually surprised that they burst out so quickly. I thought that maybe they would have like the really hard decision of like you know taking him to the ship. But the thing is, I guess like you couldn't have taken him back to the ship. Like even if
No,
the aliens hadn't burst out, like you can't take the risk of having that. Because the thing is,
right.
like I kind of hate having aliens in Star Trek because you know because like these. these creatures are such an existential threat. Like literally, everybody would be talking about them. Everybody would know them because like they're just like an existential threat.
Oh yeah, and like look how quickly they killed in 2 days. They killed 99 people. Imagine if they got loose on the Enterprise and kept reproducing. Like it would just be a nightmare of a scenario. Like it would be quite a scenario there. Let's say you can see why the ship crashed. Also, I think they said that the Orion character, which we didn't get to meet, set off a grenade to try to prevent the Gorn, and so that's what like caused the ship to crash land, I think, or to have
Oh,
to
that's
have
why
a
it has that broken nacelle.
yeah, that possibly why it had the broken nacelle as well. That could have happened in the atmosphere or whatnot. That was a cool design. That was a cool like that was cool to see a wrecked ship too, by the way. I thought that was a really neat thing about this episode. Here we have Sam joking around with Spock. And of course, we'll get tensions raising with Sam later on in this episode. But, he's like, oh, you called the lieutenant and ensign, you have to buy him a drink. And Spock says something like, drinking games never, is that something that humans have plenty of or something? He's like, yep, they never end or something like that.
Is there no end to human drinking games?
It's true. And that is kind of true. Then we have La'an, who stumbles upon the first signs of trouble and says, oh, maybe we're not finding the crew, not because they're of the interference from the atmosphere, but because they are dead. And so they go into the ship and there's blood all over the panels and everything, and they're just seeing that there's like a lot of gore. So clearly an attack of some kind has taken place, but I don't think they knew at this point whether it was the Gorn or not. They were just like speculating that it could have been a native beast from the planet or something like that did this, because the Gorn aren't the only aliens out there, or possibly there's probably a lot of like really kind of dangerous creatures out there in space. So I kind of like that idea that it could be anything, and they weren't too surprised. They were just kind of like, oh wow, this is terrible, but tension started to rise. Everyone started to have a little bit of a moment of stress in this episode. And I think it's interesting. One of the things that I liked about this episode was to see how different people were handling the stress, which we could talk about throughout the episode. But Sam Kirk handled it at least almost the best, the least well later on. And I think that La'an, I don't know who might have been handling it the best in your opinion, guys. Maybe it was actually Hemmer. I think Hemmer handled the stress the best, if I'm thinking about it.
I would say Hemmer.
Yeah, Hemmer seemed to
Sam
be the
was an
most.
idiot. I swear to God, that
Sam
guy's
was-
gonna get that guy's gonna get himself killed one day. Mark my words.
Spoilers.
No, but again, I would definitely say that Hemmer handled himself pretty well, and La'an was pretty steady.
Yeah, Lon was pretty. Other than that moment where she yelled at the child, it was pretty. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
She
that's
was
why I said
good.
pretty steady, and I didn't say steady.
Discovery had those creatures as the first Calvin movie. Kirk thought it was Wampas. I bet. Wampas aren't those from Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I like this. I like this. I took a screenshot of the captain's message of the Peregrine because I liked how creepy it was. Like you don't see the visual, you just hear her log, and she's like, "If I knew, I would." She's like, "If I could send, if this message could go out, I would say, don't come to this planet. Stay away. Like the ship is lost. Just fire a bunch of photon torpedoes and destroy it." She didn't say that, but that was my part that I put on in there. So
No, but you know what? I'm sorry, that's a novel idea.
Go.
Like after the crew experienced this thing on the planet, why didn't they go back up to the ship and why didn't they throw a bunch of torpedoes and destroy the planet or destroy
because the life
the ship?
signs. Because they found the life signs. Remember? So
life
like
signs
La'an,
gibberish. Kill everything. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We all know Marcella's willing to sacrifice the good of the few for the good of the many, so it's all right. But yeah,
Okay.
I think yeah, that's what it all boiled down to. Is Lon said, "I would like nothing more than to." Pike kind of turns to her, to see what her choice would be, and she's like, "I would like nothing more than to kill the Gorn." Oh, because here's where they find out that it's the Gorn, by the way, is through the recording. And so Lon says, "I would like nothing more than to kill the Gorn, but I think we should get the remaining, alive crew members out of here as quickly as possible." So that's the whole mission. So they go hunting through the ship, and that's when we encounter this lovely new addition to Star Trek, Buckley. Yeah, right? That's the name of the alien. Yeah, Buckley. And I'm going to put a little card up here to talk about the animatronics and the puppet. Did you guys know that Buckley's a puppet and like a combination of a person in a suit, puppeteering, and animatronics?
Oh, wow.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was
Buckley,
pretty
we
awesome.
hardly knew ye.
It's true. Buckley, we did hardly know you. It's true. But yeah, I thought he was such a cool character. And then we meet what was the name of the girl? I keep wanting to say Osira, but it's not. It's an O name. It's like Oriana. It's Oriana. So we meet Oriana, and she's like basically very similar to Newt's character in Aliens, right? Like I think she's very similar in a lot of ways, or meant to evoke that character. And I thought even just the way she's like all kind of like shoveled, and like you could tell she's mostly quiet. Like there was a lot of similarities. So again, this is like kind of skirting the line of like, are they ripping it off or are they paying homage? I want to say that they're paying homage. I think they did a pretty good job. I think the Gorn are a lot like the aliens in the way that they've chosen to portray them. So it makes sense that they would lean heavily on that franchise for like to evoke like that franchise, I should say. So yeah. When Joel points out she has Newt's exact messy hair. Here we have one of the first moments where Spock comes to ask for that. The new lieutenant burned himself, so Spock comes to ask for that kit, and this is where Chapel suggests that he let his anger come out every once in a while. He's like, he's trying to explain to Chapel, "Oh, we don't let our emotions like mess with us or anything like that." And it's like, you should. And so that's like the first suggestion of it. Kind of puts that idea in Spock's head. And then they start to examine the two survivors, and they don't find any evidence of Gorn eggs or infestation or anything abnormal in them. But we find out later, of course, that that's because the Gorn have genetically engineered themselves to be invisible to scanners and sensors, which shows that there is definitely a higher. I mean, we've seen them fly around in starships and stuff, so even though they seem bestial and like unintelligent here in this stage of their lives, we know that Gorn are capable of a lot, because and that they're intentionally like this. Like they have they've created all these advantages for when they're young and little and vulnerable. And maybe Gorn development, again, we're all basing this on human development, like how humans develop, but maybe Gorn develop in a completely different way. And I like that. Or the other idea I wanted to throw out to you guys is like, maybe there's a caste system, and the Captain Gorn that we saw in the original series was like of a different caste of Gorn, like a leadership caste of some kind. And these Gorn are more of a warrior class, or like a assassin class of Gorn. So that's what we're seeing here, and that's what we mostly see in Arena. It could be explained that the what are they called, the Metrons, the people that made the whole thing happen, plucked the captain of each ship out to fight each other. But maybe that wasn't the fairest fight. Maybe the captains are just like, they're tanks, they're like brutal, they can definitely hold their own, but they're not fast. So their advantage is like, because they're not fast, they have like insane intellects or intelligence, and maybe that's why those Gorn are the way they are. I like the idea. I think there should be like subspecies within the Gorn. I mean, we know we have the Anar and the Andorians, so like, why can't there be multiple subspecies in the Gorn as well? So there's a lot of ideas. I think. What do you guys think of that?
I think that there are a lot of ideas, but I also think it's problematic when you have to headcanon it so to make it make sense. Make it make sense, dude. We probably won't get it
Well,
this season, but
Well, yeah,
like
but I
maybe
think
in
that's
the
where
next
we are. I think it
couple.
is gonna make sense, Braxton. I'm just saying, like, until it makes sense, like, it's fine to headcanon stuff. I think that's fun. That's part of the
Mhm.
like for me, that's part of the enjoyment. Like, if they had just if they went on a sidebar, it would have taken me out of like the episode. Like, if they had gone on a sidebar. Plus, they don't know much about the Gorn as from the character's perspective.
I mean, so we haven't seen their emergence yet, but it makes sense to me that they grow really fast because we have seen that they are absolutely ravenous, dude. Like they emerge,
Mhm.
dude, and they just eat and they feed, and like yeah, it's amazing that they are so strong that they can pull like a 200-pound man, dude. Like to me, it
Oh
makes sense
yeah.
that they would grow like super fast, dude.
Yeah, and we see them grow. Like, and you saw the one Gorn, the biggest one, the one at the end. It had killed a littler Gorn too. So like that was the alpha, the one that was growing the fastest. Like so they have like they're crazy. Like the Gorn are just nuts. I love it. I think I think there's enough evidence on screen to show us that the Gorn between this and the original series and Enterprise, I think there's enough evidence on screen, if you want to just take what's on screen and be very literal, to show that there are different Gorn among the Gorn species, like that there are different types of Gorn. So at least know that much. Marcelo, did you have any particular thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that there could be multiple kinds of Gorn out there in the galaxy, but I tend to float more towards Braxton's theory. When you have to start canning the crap out of things to make them make sense, that is where, for me personally, as a creative individual, that's where the problems begin. If I was doing if I was writing this episode, I would have just given a little bit to the audience to make it fit a little bit more as to why the Gorn look the way that they do. Just I would have given just like a little sliver, and then go forward. But clearly, I did not write this episode, because if I did, it would have been way more violent than it was.
It would have been that 99. We would have seen the scuttling of the Peregrine, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, no, but actually, I would actually had like half-eaten bodies on the floor with like intestines and crap. So yeah.
Blue Meanie agrees. The author is indeed forcing us to do headcanon backflips for this one. It's a bit exhausting. I don't know.
See?
I think it's interesting you all feel that way.
But hold up, but I just want to point out one thing. Do you notice that as we do these discussions on different iterations of Star Trek, you have to headcanon a lot of stuff? Do you acknowledge that?
No, I think it's like
Okay.
I think for me it's fun to speculate and put things
Okay.
together and piece things together. So I think headcanoning, quote unquote, has always been part of watching Star Trek. I don't think they ever give us enough on screen, and I actually kind of like that. Like I don't want to sit there and have an explanation for every single thing. Not just for me as an audience member, but also for sure. Right? I think it's great to have no definitive answer to some things so that you can create your own version of it if you choose to. And I think that's why it's done that way. And I think I like that personally.
Okay.
I think it's to quote Captain Picard, it's a failure of the imagination to think that there is no other choice. I love that quote.
Mm.
Murder She Wrote, instead it's Murder Marcelo Wrote.
Also, if I was writing this thing, the Enterprise would have nuked the entire planet. I would have pissed off a whole lot of people.
Like use actual nukes instead of phasers or photon torpedoes.
No, just just a couple photons to get it started, but then just for good measure, an actual nuke, tiny one,
Here-
just tiny.
Here's Buckley painting, and you can't really tell too much from these screenshots, but like the character is actually sweating and he's under distress, as you said, Braxton. And so, yeah, you're right. They were kind of like nonchalant about it, but I think it's because they were, calm under pressure type of situation. But beautiful work from the team. I did a tweet earlier that said that Buckley was Jim Henson Company level great, and I meant Jim Henson Creature Shop. But yeah, he was such a great, well executed new alien. I thought he was like really impressive. So hats off to Strange New Worlds. There he is on a side view, and he's an interesting species too. He kind of looks like amphibious in some way. There's like a frog-like or fish-like features to him, which is pretty cool. I like him a lot. But here we have the girl figuring out like, something's going on, like probably this before, and she's really traumatized. I think she's traumatized. She thinks of them as monsters, the poor thing. I don't know if she realizes what exactly is going on, but this is horrifying. She goes over and crawls into that other sickbay bed, and she cuts her mouth. Like, you could tell like she's seen some crazy stuff in her time. And there it is. Look at that little baby. It's so gross. Look at it.
Look at those teeth, dude. Wow.
Look at the teeth, right? Imagine thinking out of your body. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Gosh,
I would.
dude.
That Orion blew himself up to prevent these things from getting too crazy, and a couple even it's nuts. Chapel runs and hides behind the shield, and I was scared for a moment. I think someone on Text Track, other Father Dave, were scared about this too. What if it had gotten inside and she was locked in with it? Like, that would have been a very horror movie thing.
Also,
but of course, we know Chapel doesn't die, so that can't happen.
Also, did you notice how she wasn't carrying a phaser?
Oh yeah, that's right.
She didn't have a weapon, so if the thing would have gotten in there, it would have been worse for her.
It would have been worse, yeah. Not to mention the phaser bouncing off the walls or whatever. That would have been crazy.
Oh my God.
So the guy that we had just gotten promoted, unfortunately, dies. What was his name? Lieutenant. I want to say it was Drake, but that's not what it was. It's something like that.
I can't remember.
But you know what's interesting is that he had a wound, and he was the first one the Gorn sniffed out and hunted. So I like that. Like, someone compared the Gorn earlier in the chat to sharks. Did you guys know this? I didn't know this, but baby sharks kill other sharks in the womb. Even like they'll eat their little shark siblings while they're still in the womb. Is that crazy? So I could totally see like the Gorn being a little bit like sharks. That's a cool idea that they can sniff out the blood and they go right for this because he was just eating, he just had a wound. And so bye, see you later. He becomes food for the Gorn. Cake says, I still think Chapel should have locked the sick bay, then shut herself in the biobed or used a voice command to isolate sick bay. Yeah, I mean, she could have done a lot of things, but she was really freaked out. She couldn't even scan for life signs later when La'an comes over. She's like, scan for life signs, and Chapel's like frozen and doesn't know what to do. So I think she was just totally freaked out, which I can understand. I think I'd be screaming and running, and I don't know what I would do. I would run out into that cold. Let me tell you. I would run out into that cold and hope for the best. with the storm. I would not be very very comfortable aboard the ship. And we get the Gorn vision. What did you guys think about the Gorn vision? I forgot to screenshot it here.
I did not like that at all. I thought it was a little bit
too much like Predator with the clicking.
Too much Predator, too much like Alien. I thought it was on the nose a little bit too much.
And Braxton, you didn't love it, right? Or go ahead, sorry.
I mean, so I totally enjoyed watching it because I like Alien and Predator. You know, I love hearing the Predator hiss. Like I love seeing the Predator vision. Like I thought
Okay.
it was very cool on my first watch. But I don't know. I do think that it is too derivative in the end. But it is fun to watch.
I agree. Here's that scene with Hemmer and Uhura. Finally, they fix the ship, and I love this little scene because they had a little victory. And what does she call? She calls it Hemura, right? Their team up, Hemura, or who Hemmer or something like that. I forget what it was, but she says that, and I love that they have such a good friendship, and it was very touching, and it was a nice little bookend to their relationship. He says, "It is better to leave than to be the one left behind, but that's wrong. You create bonds. It's a gift. Of course, the people you care about are going to cause you pain. It will hurt, but the love it yields will far outweigh the sorrow." And I really loved that sentiment. What did you guys think of this scene?
It was a good scene, but knowing what happens to Hemmer in hindsight, this scene sort of just ticks me off because his quote really telegraphs what's going to happen later in my mind.
Mm,
But here's the thing: if I just watched this episode without my writer's brain, I would enjoy it a lot more. But I just can't watch new Star Trek like that the first time I watch it. Perhaps the next time I watch this episode, which will be when I get it on digital, perhaps it'll play better if I don't look at all the things that make me angry about this episode. But the quote was a good quote,
right
by the
on.
way.
Mhm. This was
Yeah,
a
the
really
writing's superb, Dave.
powerful.
And then, of course, we hear the screech, and then here it is. It lands in engineering. This Alpha, the one left. Look at that thing. It is big now. It's getting older. I guess it's no longer a infant. It's now a juvenile, and it is vicious. And as soon as it senses a threat, what does it do? It sprays Hemmer with its Gorn goo, which is, I think, what we'll call it. And we think it's just like we're meant to think it's just like a poisonous spit or something, like a defense mechanism and stuff. No, I had no idea the first time watching it that this is how they reproduce as well. And it's actually pretty clever if you think about it. If the Gorn can just infect you with their eggs, because they've evolved or have been engineered to the point where they don't even have to reproduce through sexual methods. They can just infect just about anything that's alive with their saliva. And it's also clever because someone who's infected with this goo, the smell of it or whatever would tell other Gorn not to kill this person because they're gonna be, well, which, based on the ruthlessness that we've seen, the Gorn would probably kill you anyways. But but theoretically speaking, it says like, oh, this person's marked with, they're gonna hatch our next thing. So it was neat to see that, and why the little beastie didn't go after Hemmer later on. So that's interesting as well. But yeah, this was like a really good scene, really, really frightening. And then, of course, La'an is on a kick. she's ready. Some folks were saying, going back to the aliens, similarities, that she reminded them of Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver's character, and I thought that was pretty apt and true. I think that's correct.
Dude, just going back to that last shot, like the Gorn's mouth is just a gaping maw of toxicity, dude. It just looks disgusting.
It is gross.
Yeah, I mean when he spews his goo towards Hemmer, at first I was like, "Boo! It's alien acid. It even has the right color," and I'm like, "Ugh, all right, move on, jag on."
They had that aliens have like an orange blood, is that right, Marcelo?
Yeah, no, it's like no, but it's green. It's not really orange. It's green.
The goo is green, but later when La'an kills the Gorn, the insides of it are like a bright orange color.
Oh, they
So
are
they're
bright
blood, I
orange.
think, is
Okay.
orange. See the
Okay.
corn bleed in TOS? I don't remember. Did it bleed orange or a different or
I
green
have
even
no
or
idea.
some other color?
I
I
haven't seen
can't
that episode
remember.
in
I
a
don't
long time.
remember.
Cake says I hadn't thought about that. That too was a marker for the other Gorn to leave him alone. Maybe why they left Buckley alive. Yeah, I think that's the reason why as well. That would explain why Buckley was not dead either. That makes sense because they're like their instincts to reproduce are really strong. Hemmer is taking to engineering to be checked out, and Spock is remarking, just like I was, at how fascinating the Gorn are with their stealth, their genetic stealth and all that stuff. And that was just one thing too far for Sam Kirk, who blows up and calls him a pointy-eared emotionless computer or something like that, which we've heard Dr. McCoy call Spock. And so it evokes a lot of it triggers and evokes a lot of emotions for Trekkies. And we did a space discussion on Twitter on Friday, and it actually led to a really interesting tangent about Star Trek and certain characters are overlooked to be racist and have racist ideas, and there were a lot of interesting points brought up for Spock being, kind of a little bit prejudiced and bigoted towards humanoids, or humans I should say, and humans being very prejudiced against Vulcans. Of course, we have a history of like mistrust and mistreatment between the Vulcans and the humans. So there's that's established in Enterprise. We see that through the way Archer feels about the Vulcans in the beginning. He's quite mean about it, and he gets really angry. And he's corrected as a child, even like his father's like, "Yo, you can't talk like that. That's not right." So
Ambassador Pointy.
yeah, and so Star Trek has always used its characters to highlight, real life problems, and I think it's neat that this scene is neat for me, and for two reasons. One, it shows that it kind of firmly establishes a link between the mood or the mindset of humans in Star Trek in this era. They're a lot different in TNG. They're a lot less like this in TNG, but they are like this in TOS. It makes sense that they would like this in Strange New Worlds and even Discovery to some degree. So I like that. And then the other thing is, it was interesting to see a character lose it and break down, and like, it gives a lot of food for thought to like who Sam Kirk might really be, and like why does he think this way, and where did this come out of, and stress can bring out the darker side of us sometimes, and so this is interesting. I hope they explore it further. I hope Sam has some kind of arc addressing this, or like that we maybe touch on this again. But what did you guys think of the scene?
I thought that Sam Kirk needed to get a grip on himself. Like, I wanted Spock to
And
come over to him and
disciplinary
grab him
action, right?
and
Marcelo,
say
right?
"Get a
Disciplinary
grip."
action as well.
No,
Marcelo, but he also needs disciplinary action, right?
no, no, no,
Why?
not
Why? How is
necessarily.
this not any? How is this any less worse than some of the other characters that you wanted to send to the brig or to prison
Okay, okay,
for
because
their
okay. You know
insubordination?
what? I'll tell you. I'll tell you why this isn't as worse as what Mbanga did or whatever. This guy, I think, is a moron. I hold this guy to a much lower standard than I do Mbanga number one. Any of the senior officers. So if this guy does something stupid, like he did in this episode, I tend to be easier on him. I'm much harder on characters that I enjoy and I love. So I know that's a double standard. I know that.
Wait, you're harder on characters that you love? So you want to
Yeah.
send characters, you want to kill their daughters and send them to the brig, but then this guy has like an egregious moment of bigotry and possibly racism, and you're like, oh, no disciplinary action.
No,
That's really
but hold up.
well. Unfortunately, Marcelo Pike agrees with you because he did not do any disciplinary actions on Sam. He was just like, now that that's out of the way, let's move on. Which I get it, like it's an emergency situation, but I was a little upset actually. I was a little upset that Sam did not face disciplinary action. Braxton, do you want to be our tiebreaker here, or give us any thoughts on that?
Softly boy, I'm with you. I'm disappointed that he wouldn't face disciplinary action as well. When I first heard him say his racist comment, I thought of Dr. McCoy in Star Trek Five when he said, "Oh, you green-blooded Vulcan," and so I just thought of McCoy and his racism. Racism is not acceptable, and I definitely think that he should be brought up on disciplinary charges because of it. Like people just allowing Spock to be harassed.
Yeah,
Multiple
and it
people
happens
saw
in
it.
TOS too. It's terrible.
Mhm.
I mean, but Kirk wasn't there to witness the one in TOS, I don't think. I think that was on the Shuttlecraft, the Galileo 7 episode. Remember when everyone was like freaking out about Spock and all this mistrust and stuff came out about it. Kirk does antagonize Spock, and he uses similar language, derogatory language, on Spock to shake him out of something. Uh, to bring him, to get him angry on purpose. So I can understand that situation a little bit more, but there's no reason for Sam to blow up or have said that. He definitely owes Spock an apology, which I don't remember us saying in the episode. Do you all remember? Did he say sorry? I don't think he did.
I don't think he did.
And he definitely also deserves disciplinary action. I think he needs Marcelo at least 2 weeks in the brig. I think.
also, I think this moment really serves as a pillar to Spock getting angry early on, and then bending some equipment.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's true. We do see Spock's anger appear. So they hatch this plan, haha, no pun intended, to cool to cool down the ship and lead the remaining Gorn to the cargo bay where they will freeze them, and then they can be rid of this menace. And everything's working out great, and everything happens as planned with a few exceptions. Spock has to reach deep inside, and I love the thing that he says. What does he say? Bring this rage that's in my mind into my heart, or something like that. And then that, like, he broke something in himself, which is kind of scary. Like, I hope Spock's gonna be okay, or that he can recover from this, because he's after this, you could tell he has that creepy look that he's giving later on. Like when he's standing in the corner and he's just like looking, like you could tell he's like in a very, he's had some kind of a break, a psychotic break, if you will. But he does succeed in like taunting the Gorn and luring it, and it does chase him. And then Sam saves his life here, so I can kind of like give Sam a little bit, maybe like 1 day less in the brig because of this. And then La'an goes out and taunts the Gorn and gets it to come out and eventually chase her into the cargo bay. And there's the Gorn vision. I did get a screenshot where she locks herself in one of these pods, and then they flash freeze the little beastie, and here he is, flash frozen. And then see the orangey yellow blood there, Marcelo?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she breaks it, and unfortunately, the victory is not without its comeuppance, or its price, I should say. The victory does not come without a price, and the price is Heather. It's a heartbreaking scene. It's very interesting. It's very reminiscent of the scene in Discovery with
Ariam.
What's her name? Ariam, thank you. Yeah, like
also with Uhura being behind the blast door. What the hell is this? Star Wars with Uhura being behind the door. It's a very similar shot to the one that it's a very similar shot to the Burnham shot.
Right, exactly. but yeah, it's very similar. But yeah, Uhura, everyone's pleading with him, saying like we could figure out a way. But Hemmer's like, I know my body. You guys don't have enough time. These things are gonna hatch like any minute now. So he's like, I want to leave you with one last piece of advice to Neoda. I love this. Open yourself, make a home for yourself amongst others, and you will find joy more often than sadness. And so yeah, that was his last piece of advice to her. And then that's when I think La'an realizes in this moment that the venom is actually how they reproduce. I don't think some folks were speculating that she may have known ahead of time, but I don't think she would have kept that information secret. La'an doesn't seem that like that type of person. I think she's just having the realization in this moment. And then Hemmer does the live long and prosper thing, and he says goodbye to Spock, and he walks out into the cold atmosphere, and goodbye Hemmer. I don't know if you guys could see the little Hemmer falling into the crevasse there. But yeah, this really affected me. I love Hemmer. I was just drawing pictures of him. I was just thinking of like how he could, have a bigger part in season 2, all these things, and all those hopes were kind of lost. But that being said, I have to say the death was very noble. And a pretty good death. Like I think as far as Star Trek deaths go, this one was pretty awesome. I think I'm being brought tea. So why don't you guys comment on this scene and Hemmer's death?
I feel like I would rather plunge to my death and bounce off of multiple sharp, jagged rocks than to have those things burst from my back. So
Oh,
hopefully,
100%. Yeah.
he was spared that. His sacrifice was so meaningful. Like I mean, I didn't get choked up, but like, just like a figure of speech choked up when Uhura was behind the door, like, and she was crying, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, like, let us try to help," but he's like, "Oh no, like, I'm too close, like, I know my body, like you said. So yeah, that was super impactful. I really, really wished that Hemmer hadn't died. Um, but like you were saying, Starfleet Boy, in the Ready Room, he did say that this was the plan from the beginning. He knew that he was only going to be on for one season, so we were always going to end here. So I thought that was interesting. But it seemed like they didn't have to kill Hemmer.
I
It
know,
seems
right?
like
He's so likable. He's such a good character.
mm, stakes, dude.
Steaks. Marcel, there's those goddamn steaks you're always asking for.
Should
Marcel,
I go?
any additional thoughts on Hemmer's death?
No, I personally didn't think that Hemmer's death worked at all because we didn't spend enough time with Hemmer. At least I didn't spend enough time with Hemmer to make me feel his death. Now, whether or not the writers planned that from the beginning, I personally think that was a mistake. Like if you wanted somebody to die, you could have picked anybody. Why did it have to be Hemmer? Like it could have been Sam Kirk. That would have been awesome to see that idiot fall, to see that idiot be attacked by one of those things and have to jump off a cliff to save the crew. That would have been fine. Also, the reason why I think they killed Hammer was because I think they're going to bring in somebody else next year. And I think that somebody
talk a little bit about that.
is going to be Scottish.
It's going to happen. I think it's going to happen as soon as maybe next episode. I don't know. I have a weird feeling. I don't know anything, by the way. I don't have any access to spoilers or anything. No, I actually don't. Know
Okay.
that.
Okay. No, but
I tend to not look for spoilers. I'm genuinely speculating that
but
the reason Hemmer was only written for one season is because they did want to bring Scotty in to season 2 for sure. I think I agree with that.
No, but just to reiterate, I don't think this death worked for me at all because I didn't get to know the person Hemmer was. If I knew if he was around a lot more, this sacrifice would have worked for me. But because I didn't get to spend time with him like I did with Dax, for 5 years. It just didn't work for
Hemmer's
me.
death is certainly not a bawling, not for me, anyways. Bawling tears like what have you done? What have you done? Why? Because we haven't had him for 5 seasons. I agree with that, but it was still impactful. I mean, he made a good he made a really good impression on everyone. I mean, you saw all the Hemmer love that was going on, and
I did.
he's got
I
his
did.
little like he's got his little quirks like abra cadabra, like all these things. Like, so we got I think we got a lot of good Hammer moments, and that's why it's such a disheartening thing to see him go.
Mhm.
Totally agree.
So here's the funeral scene, and Uhura says something really touching in this scene, which is, "I never told Hemmer, but he reminded me a lot of my dad, always pushing me to see things from a new perspective, do better, be better. Um, Losing Hemmer hurts. The people you love the most," she's echoing his line from earlier. "The people you love the most can cause you the most pain, but it's the people you love that can mend your heart when you feel broken." That's what Hemmer's purpose was, to fix what is broken, and he did. And it's a nice little bookend on the character and like what the character wanted and what the character has said throughout the season and stuff like that. And it was very well done to like give him such a nice little tribute. And I think the effects of Hemmer are going to be long lasting. I think the fact that he was such a standout character and endeared to so many and became endeared to so many viewers means that they'll have to keep bringing him up somehow. And I think we'll see reflections of Hemmer with Uhura and also through Ortegas, who seems to really appreciate him. She says some nice words about him as well. And that's where the line, "the blue meanie," that Jill's screen name today comes from. So I think we haven't heard the last of Hemmer. It'll be interesting if they do bring on a certain Scottish engineer who helped design or build Enterprise, if I'm not mistaken, according to the lore. If they do bring on a certain Scottish engineer, I wonder if they'll compare him to Hemmer at first, like, give him a hard time. Like, "Oh, well, Hemmer would have done it like this." Like, maybe that could be how Uhura interacts. Well, Hemmer wouldn't have done that, like, so there could be stuff like that to give a little tension and drama for that character. But yeah, then we cut to Spock not handling or maintaining himself very well, and Chapel notices, and she follows him out, and he freaking puts a dent in the side of the wall here on the Enterprise, like with his Vulcan strength. Marcelo, disciplinary action, yes or no? I'm always gonna ask you.
All right.
Now, this is
Okay.
a character you like, so you have to be hard on
Okay.
him, right?
All right. I would just say this was my favorite moment of the episode, because this moment was set up by everything that happened with Hemmer and what happened with Sam Kirk. And just because you asked it, I will give him a disciplinary action. I will give him 1 week in the break for messing up the hallway.
Nice.
But
All
also, I
right.
really like. Yeah, I. But actually, this is actually my favorite moment in the episode, because he has a really nice moment with Chapel where he just hugs Chapel. So you see, and that scene right there, you see the potential of a relationship. So I really hope that what's going to happen with Chapel happens. And then after that, I hope that they explore a potential relationship with Spock and Chapel at some point at a later date, because I do know that a certain doctor is on his way. But yeah, this scene was just really, really wonderful.
Dr. Corby. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, Mr. Corby.
The down is what it looks like it's gonna be. Blue
I
Meanie
like
points
the
out.
scenes.
Go
I
ahead,
like the scenes where
Patrick.
Spock walks away from Nurse Chapel. Like after I watched this, I went back and I was like watching the video of like some. There was like a part in like old Star Trek where like Nurse Chapel had like grabbed Spock's hand, and it was just too much for him, and he just like walked away from her.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate
Yeah.
that about it. It's like, okay, well, you know what? Like this is too much like human emotion. I have to walk away from this.
Yeah, I agree. That's really, really well done and good call out. Good, nice pointing that out, Braxton. Um, we get one more. The episode doesn't end very happily. We lose Hammer. We get Spock out of sorts, and we get one more departure. So La'an really is touched by, or I guess in she wants this girl to find her family, and she's gotten a lead that her people might be out there somewhere in non-Federation space. So she decides she wants to take a leave of absence and help this girl um, find her family and help her get back to some normalcy, similar to what number one seems to have done for La'an. And so I love that that she wants to kind of repay that kind of same kind of kindness, and like help this poor this unfortunate, I almost said poor unfortunate girl, like in the Little Mermaid, but Starfleet boy is Ursula, but yeah, so like what does this mean? Like when do we get La'an back? Like, I think she's gonna come back, but how much of next season will be without her? Like, I guess she won't be in the finale. It's very interesting that they've kind of wrote out the time. What do you guys think?
I think that she's going to be absent the finale, but I think she's going to be back at the start of season 2. Now, I have nothing to base that on, absolutely nothing, but I don't
Just a
believe
gut
that
feeling. I like that.
I don't. Yeah, it's just a gut feeling. I don't believe that they're going to throw away somebody with the talent that this wonderful actress has to just.
Yeah, she's great.
I don't think they would do that. But then again, they threw away an excellent character in Hammer for absolutely nothing.
But also, speaking of actor, you were saying this talented actor brought this performance, and that's totally true. Actress with Christina Chong, as can be said about Bruce Horak, and he'll be back. He says he confirmed that he'll be back as another performer,
character,
but not another character. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, but I personally think that La'an will be back at the start of season 2.
We've seen the images of La'an and the actor who plays Kirk.
Oh, Kirk, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I'm imagining that somehow like she encounters Kirk on her journey to place the girl back with her family. Who knows? But I think that if we don't get to see more La'an, it would be a tragedy because La'an is my favorite character of the series.
Awesome.
I think that she is outstanding. I thought that Christina Chong's performance has been absolutely wonderful. Like all the nuance that she has given us with La'an. So I hope that I hope she comes back.
Yeah, she'll definitely be back. So yeah, you reminded me that I forgot about that. That's her. I keep thinking it's Ortiz for some reason. I don't know why that I thought it was Melissa Navia, but it's actually Christina Chong in that scene with Kirk. So you're absolutely right. That's cool. Yep. So here's Pike, kind of like, oh, all my kids are gone. Like, all right, this is interesting. One of his kids who was gonna leave decides to stay though. And look at this shot here. Uhura walking out on the bridge, feeling a confidence she didn't have before, a kind of sense of place she didn't have before, realizing that maybe it's time to put down roots and not be afraid of getting attached to people and see what happens. And it's going to lead to a very beautiful career. So I think the season 1 Uhura arc is complete here in this scene, and it's beautiful, and I like the way they tied this up nicely. And then moving forward, we'll have we'll have an Uhura on Enterprise because that's where she is. So I love that. And then that's it. The end. The episode's over. We finished talking about it. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? And if you care to go ahead and give a rating, it could be an absurd rating or an actual rating or just one from your gut. I do. I am gonna give this episode 10. No, I'm just kidding. 9.5. I'm only dinging it because I agree with Marcelo that Hemmer was too good a character to write off. I don't think they should have written him off. So a 9.5.
What is that? I got to win on a
Yes,
Starfleet Boy
you
podcast.
gotta
Holy crap!
win. You definitely gotta win.
I gotta win.
What about you guys? What would you give this episode? And audience, feel free to give us a rating for this episode as well.
So this episode for me gets an 8. I would give a 10 to the first 25 minutes of it, and then after the aliens burst out, well, the Gorn burst out, I give that part of it a 6. So overall, I give it an 8. I think that this episode was enjoyable, but I do think it's too derivative, and I'll just have to wait and see where they're going with the Gorn. But for right now, they just don't work for me. I just don't understand how they can organize and like be intelligent and work to engineer starships. Like I just don't get that with these aliens. So I think that's problematic. But I did enjoy the episode, and I give it an 8.
Right on,
I have a
Marcelo.
lot of issues with this episode from a certain perspective. And if I didn't have those issues from a certain perspective, I think I would have enjoyed this episode much more. But I just want to steal a point from Braxton. I think that this episode is extremely derivative of other science fiction material that we've seen before in the past. So with all those issues put aside for a moment, if I just look at this as a hour of TV and I don't bring in all my baggage, I thought that this episode was quite fun. So with that being said, I'll give it out of 10, I'll give it a 5, right in the middle.
Right on. Very cool. I just popped this screenshot over because Jill was asking if Uhura's station is right next to the turbolift. It does look like there's more space. Like it does look like on the right side over there's more controls to the right of Uhura, but more or less, I would say it's in the relative same position over here. At least the console that they're showing us, like that might not be her station, but I think it's meant to be her station, but I'm not sure. But great discussion, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Audience, thank you so much for spending another Sunday afternoon with us. If you'd like to join us and keep going on the Star Trek Sunday, head over to Trek Central in 1 hour, in a little under an hour, where I'll be joined by Fathery and Dom Paris to talk about this episode. Yeah, so all you Dom Paris fans, go over there and check it out. I'm excited. So that's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Braxton, where can folks find you on the internet these days?
Okay, you can find me on Twitter at Leviathan026. Yeah, go ahead and tweet me. They can find the audience can find me at least for another week on Twitter Spaces with you on Thursday evening
I love
at
doing those spaces.
9.
They're so cool. Thank you for joining me on those, Braxton. I really appreciate it.
Dude, the spaces are so fun.
It
And
is.
I'm so looking forward to hearing you, Fathery, and Dom talk Trek in 50 minutes or so. The return of silky smooth Dom, dude. Let him know I'm excited.
I'll let him know you said that. Marcelo, what's going on your channels and your podcast? Can you tell the audience where they can find you, please?
Yeah, the best place to find me is also on Twitter. I'm at CreekFanatic88. If you go to that Twitter handle, I have a LinkedIn tree where you can find the links to both of my podcasts, Radio 815, which is a J.J. Abrams podcast, and my personal podcast, the Red Wall podcast, where I talk about personal things about my life and all sorts of depressing and emotional stuff. So if you want to get to know me a little bit better, I recommend that podcast. But I also have a YouTube channel where every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I review the latest episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. So if you're around at that time, come and join me and come and yell at me in the comments for hating on new Star Trek. But I just wanted to say I really appreciate the way that my channel has grown over the past couple of weeks. I really, really appreciate anybody who watches my videos, even if you don't agree with my opinions. The fact that you care about what I have to say means a lot to me, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Marcelo. We care a lot about you and your opinions, even if we disagree with them. And I appreciate you being such a good sport when I go off on one of my Marcelo hunts. When I hunt you down, Marcelo, and ask you who deserves to be in the brig and who doesn't. It's definitely something I always want to know when you're on. So I hope you don't mind. No, I love you.
Yeah,
Marcelo.
that'll be a running joke.
Marcelo, can we promote the thing on Friday?
Oh yeah, yes. Go ahead. I totally forgot about
that. Oh no, you do. You too. Well,
oh no. This Friday at 10, right? 10.
I think we said 10. Yeah, after Text Trek. So yeah.
Yes, this Friday after Text Trek. Come and join me and Starfleet Boy and some very, very pretty young ladies, where we will actually do a live watch along of the film Pride and Prejudice, the Keira Knightley version. So
I'm so excited. Yes,
that'll be fun.
It's one of my favorite versions of the adaptations of the book. So I love that we're going to be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're around that late, comment, and Starfleet Boy will address your comments, because I don't look at the comments, so he'll address those.
Oh, cool. We have I think we have a couple new people joined us at the end there. Is that Earl Grey Trekkie, our friend Robbie, or is that a different Earl Grey Trekkie? It looks like a different avatar from what I'm used to, but I think that's Robbie. So shout out to Robbie. He says perhaps Kirk's Gordon hadn't evolved to have favorable attributes. I'm okay with it since it isn't impossible to justify. I think meeting the Romulans would be hard to justify though. Oh, that Earl Grey Trekkie's speculating about next week, but let's talk more about that on Trek Central. So tune in there, audience, and we'll have more of a discussion of that. Nice to see you. Live long and prosper, and we will see you next